I'm Joanna Garzilli. This is Tarot News, giving you a multi-dimensional view. Today's story, she said, Me Too. Gwyneth Paltrow exposes Harvey Weinstein. And we're covering this today because of the release of the new book, She Said, by Jodi Kantor and Twohey. And so I wanted to be able to pull cards and look at, this was a big story, breaking the sexual harassment story that ignited the Me Too movement, right? It helped to ignite that movement. And we're going to pull cards for Gwyneth. We're going to pull cards for the upcoming Harvey Weinstein trial that was originally meant to happen in September and now has been pushed back to January 2020. I have done quite a bit of research this morning about this, just to really to be able to get the underpinning of things and understand, well, what is behind this this book, which was the documentation of how was spurred by Gwyneth Paltrow. So when Gwyneth was that first person to speak out. I also took a look at, there is a documentary that came out by the BBC called Untouchable. So let's get into it with the cards and we'll see where we're going to go. All right. Let me just mix the cards here. I am going to start off with Gwyneth Paltrow. I feel that it is important to start off with Gwyneth Paltrow because a lot of people have speculation about who she is, where she's come from, what she's doing now, what next for her, why did she speak out after all these years? Let's just see. So these are some of the thoughts that come to my mind from the research that I've done so far. Let me cut the deck. I'm going to go here. All right, let's see what the card is. It's upside down. Okay, so some challenges to overcome here. Who pops into my head with this one? It's a card for Gwyneth. It looks a little bit like Harvey Weinstein to me. That's what pops into my mind with this. So, the interesting thing here, and I just want to show you, this is the Rider-Waite Tarot deck. This is like the original tarot deck. And so we have the pentacles here, right? You see these coins with the 5 pointed stars in them. And I think that a lot of people would have had the question, why did Gwyneth and all these other women who have now stepped forward, why did they wait so long? So I'm not, you can go for the journalistic, full details. You can go and read She Said. I'm going to cover from the spiritual angle here. What were the underlying threads of this? So these women did not speak up, I would say, because, let me go back a step. Why do you put yourself in a situation where it's like the expression that comes to mind for me is keep your friends close and keep your enemies closer? That is a belief system that has, we hear throughout society, right? Is that a good thing to do? That is something, a belief system that has carried over into the Hollywood system, right? I mean, it's been rife within Hollywood and it's within the financial industries, because I know that She Said is not just covering Weinstein, it's covering other people in other industries as well. So let me just go back a step. I just need to really ground here. Hang on. Let me just find that thread. this is a tough one for me. There's so much energy around it. You know, when I first, right before getting on to do this broadcast, it was all in the lower part of my gut. Everything. We are talking gut survival level, not in the high on the solar plexus where it's power. It is something that is innate survival. And so I think that's the core of why no one stepped up before. This idea of keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer, then turns into you're dancing with the devil. And what do you do? What do you do in that circumstance when you are dancing with a devil? You know, there are certain things that can lure you in. How objective can you be? How much of it that does one rationalize in these certain situations? Did Gwyneth Paltrow, did she have some form of extra, you know, of agenda? I mean, I don't feel that she had any agenda with this beyond a point of carrying a weight. To me, it feels like just this weight of living with something for so long and knowing that there is a deep, guttural, innate wrong that is occurring in society. I read, I think the source was USA Today, that Gwyneth said, you know, I came from a showbiz family. I'm just paraphrasing here. I mean, you know, that her parents were in Hollywood. She already could, you know, had that platform to do things in Hollywood. Now, one could argue and say, yes, but, you know, these projects, Shakespeare in Love, Sliding Doors, these were projects that were far beyond, you know, that she might not have had access to. I feel that Gwyneth would have been successful regardless. Whatever path that she would have picked would have led her ultimately to be that Academy Award winner, to be prolific within the entertainment industry, because it's like from that spiritual, from that soul perspective, I feel like it's like the expression I get from Spirit is it was written in the stars for her. It was just there. It was meant to be. And what happens is sometimes when we pick tarot cards, or tarot cards is just a way to show that a sort of a pathway where we have these different choices. We have these things that sometimes we pick a path and it's like you're going to go one way or another way. But for her, I feel that all pathways that she would take were going to lead her to stardom, that she was meant to be a star. I wonder if in some way that I want to go back a step. This project of Shakespeare in Love, you've got someone who Harvey Weinstein has done brilliant projects, obviously, that have touched and moved people. And then there is this dark energy, this shadow nature that exists in all of us. So I again, I'm not in Gwyneth's shoes. I can't imagine what that would have been like, knowing what she knew. But I feel that stepping forward now was because the weight, like it was just something that in the end was bursting from her, and she knew on a soul level that she had to speak up. So what does this mean next? Like, what does this mean next for her? Where is she going? I want to pick another card here to just see with the energy with that. I'm just going to say, this is there's times sometimes when I tune in and I can just like get into a stream of energy and it's easy, and others where it is more challenging. The heavier the energy is around something, the more people affect, because this case, this trial coming up with Weinstein, it's more than Weinstein. This whole thing represents not just Me Too movement. I feel that it is something, it is an archetype, it is a time in history that represents something so much more. We are another turning point historically as what we do, the patterns that we play out in the role of being male, and female. So this card here, Knight of Swords. Swords is all about communication. And here in this instance, this really just shows that I feel that Gwyneth, like her path, I would say, keep going in speaking out, and that refining that communication. I don't, again, it's so easy to judge from the outside. I've got to just I need to move on to I need to mix the cards again, and I need to move on to the core of this. I need to move on to Weinstein. I feel like that is the thing that I need to get to the root of here. And I'm pausing a lot because it feels so uncomfortable. I'm not used to tuning in on this type of stuff. Normally I just do personal readings. It's like, am I going to find love? You know, what do I do in my career? What next? Not these bigger sort of things. So I want to look up what I had, some feelings, thoughts and feelings, impressions beforehand about what is going to come up with Weinstein. So I am going to make some calls for predictions for what is going to occur for him. Today's tarot news is inspired by the release of the new book, She Said, by Jodi Kantor and Twohey. One other thing I want to say before I pick this card is I open to a certain page. I believe that books have messages for us spiritually. There is something that when you open a book to a certain page and you just point your finger on a paragraph, and I opened the book beforehand and I ended up on page 29. And it was where Marissa Tomei, she shared about her understanding, her theory around why we have ended up in this situation, how we are at the point now where Harvey Weinstein is facing trial. And it is because we are women, girls from a young age, are taught, look up to females in the entertainment industry, in Hollywood, and then you're getting caught in that system. Once you go in there, you see there's a whole nother side to it. Okay, I am gonna go, let's see, with the cards, where am I going? I feel sick to my stomach. I just feel so sick with this. I've got two. Two are coming out. Three. I got three. Okay, here we go. I'm going to take that upside down. Wow. Okay, this is crazy. We have three major arcana. This is for the trial of Weinstein. They're all coming up. These were in different order. I don't know the exact order that they were in. So we have the Fool. This card typically, and I'm going to go into deeper meaning here, this card typically represents new beginnings. In this instance, what pops into my head is foolish behavior, right? It's could Weinstein get a break here? Could he have a new start right now? He was on a $1 million bail. He's in Westport, Connecticut, in his oceanfront home, working away, getting ready for this trial. Could there be a new beginning? Could this somehow work out in his favor? I will be shocked if he gets up, if he isn't charged in some capacity. I will be very surprised if he's not charged. From what I understand from my research, there is the trial was pushed back because of this other information that another witness that had stepped forward, and that it was beyond the statute of limitations, and that he faces a maximum sentence of life in prison. He's 66 years old now. let me just move on to this card. We got the Tower card. Now, sometimes the Tower card means, it's breaking down of the old. It's breaking down the negative. It's what we were talking about before. The Tower card typically relates to beliefs. And in this instance here, does it mean breaking down of beliefs? Does it mean that Harvey Weinstein's, well, because, right now he's still in a certain amount of sort of comfort, like living in comfort. He's not in jail. But what is this going to lead to? Is this going to end up to him being receiving a prison sentence, right? Because we've got the civil proceedings and then we have the criminal proceedings. This to me, and I'm going to go a little bit deeper into it. I'm going to tune it at a deeper level. I'm just going over the surface right now, just like touch points. So I do feel that he is going to get he's going to get a criminal sentence. Like he is going to end up being charged for this and he is going to end up in prison. I do not see how he's not going to end up in prison with this. So I'm leaning towards him going in prison. And then here we've got the Sun card. So like the Sun, again, is typically a very, very a positive card. Is he going to have some type of form of spiritual awakening? Is he going to have an awareness of the wrongs that he has done? Because I do believe there is a lot of wrong that has occurred here. Some people would say, well, you knew what you were getting into when you went up to the hotel room, or that he has a reputation. And yes, that on the one hand, but I feel that there is so much more to it. So let me just go back over the context of these three cards. I feel like that in terms of this trial and being able to, in terms of the Me Too movement, ultimately it is going to lead to a success overall for humanity. Like this is, again, the theme I'm going to come back to here is humanity. On some level, I feel this whole thing with Weinstein, again, it represents, we saw what happened with Epstein. There are other things that I'm not going to touch upon, but there is a theme here of patriarchal and the feminine and, from in the spiritual context. So how long will this trial be drawn out? What's going to occur with that? I again, from my research, Linda Bloom, right? It was Linda Bloom was the lawyer, apologized and everything and stepped down. And now Weinstein has this lawyer, Benjamin Braff. And typically the case, he's represented some very high profile cases. And of those, one of those including the mafia, cases for the mafia, he's represented P. Diddy. What I did see a pattern of some of the people he represented that did some pretty shady things, that they did end up having prison sentences, and but maybe those prison sentences weren't as long. So will Weinstein end up doing life in prison? I don't think so. I don't think it's going to come to that. I mean, he's 66 years old now. Is he going to do time in prison? I do believe he is going to end up having to do time in prison. What else is going to come out of this? Will he then, even from there, will he go on to be able to do other projects or rebuild himself afterwards? To me, it feels like the nail is being put in the coffin for him, because I understand right now he is working on some other producing projects. So I will be very surprised if he, years later, he gets to have a comeback and go and do another movie project. So I'm going to go with, he's not going to get to do that. Would he potentially be able to go and do a book that he does from prison, and then that hits the New York Times bestseller list because he's sharing what he went through in prison? He might end up signing a book deal when you are losing everything and you're going to have quite a big payout from this civil lawsuit where, in that settlement, he could be subject to, I think the number they're talking about right now is around 40 something million. he would probably say, I'm going to take that book deal, and someone will ghostwrite it, and then that book will go out with, because a book's going to get written on this anyway, specifically like on his story, on him, the life of Harvey Weinstein, who he was. And then we know a movie's going to get made from this, specifically on this whole thing. So my conclusion with that is prison time for Harvey. I would be shocked if it was only a year. Again, you know, I'm looking at the numbers from the Benjamin Brafman cases before, and I'm going to estimate around 5 years, maybe somewhere 3 to 7 years, because that seems to be the pattern. And then maybe it's like 7 years, and if you're really well behaved, you'll get out in 5 years. So I would say overall, this is not going to go well for him at all. And he is going down. I mean, he's already down, but he's really going down. Is he going to end up a similar fate in prison to what happened with Epstein? I don't think so. That, to me, it feels different. It just feels like, again, I can't, although the two are associated, there's a lot of association there, and I feel it comes to the same ilk. It's the same circles. I don't think that's going to happen. Maybe because that Weinstein was not as big a threat as Epstein, and so this is a different thing. This is really it's focused on a different area. So let me just bring this back round full circle to a conclusion here for Gwyneth. You know, Gwyneth, her career as an actress, and then moving on to go into the wellness space and do Goop. And she has experienced a lot of praise and a lot of criticism as well. And I just feel ultimately that Gwyneth Paltrow is someone who is extremely courageous. It is so easy for us to sit from the sidelines and make a judgment because of, you know, what we see. I feel like what pops into my head, if there was an archetype that represents her, what I get from spirit is that she is Helen of Troy. That's the goddess that popped into my mind. Gwyneth Paltrow is the modern day living Helen of Troy. She is someone that if you have to go to battle on something and you need someone on your side, she is living that archetype. Is she perfect? Does she make mistakes? No, of course she's not perfect. Of course she makes mistakes. We all do. But I would say if you have some judgment of Gwyneth around her stepping forward with this, and you think the Me Too movement is too out of sort of like control and over the top, I would say cut her some slack. Her intentions, there is no hidden agenda here for her. For her, it is all very much about truth and alignment. And I feel that on that soul level, Gwyneth is living impeccably, and she knows who she wants to serve. And she really lives her daily life in a very healthy and positive way. In terms of, there was one more thing that I wanted to add with this. It was right there. Where is it going? Where is it going? Come back. It's that thought from spirit. Hang on. Bear with me. The last thought I'm going to leave you here with, in terms of these things that happened, right? It's about what can one learn next? How do we grow? How do we grow? How does it bring your focus all the way back around to full circle and go, okay, within the entertainment industry, out of this situation from Weinstein, what are the lessons learned, right? What if, it's still happening out there on subtle levels. There are still sleazy producers and people in who are photographers and things. It's still going on. There's still people working in the club industries. There's still people in finance, and you name the industry, there's stuff happening all the time. Ultimately, we need to move our focus and our alignment away from judgment and to justice. That is the overarching message from Spirit. How can we grow and learn from Gwyneth Paltrow exposing Harvey Weinstein? Focus on justice, put judgment aside, and that is when you get attuned to the right action to take, whether someone agrees with you or not. Definitely read She Said by Jodi Kantor and Maggie Twohey. I'm Joanna Garzilli. This is Tarot News. Thank you for watching and tune in next time.